So Robert Reich, one of my least favorite people, I am doing a series kind of debunking his debunking of economics. Now, he's got 10 videos. I'm going to do 10 videos as well. So like, subscribe, turn your notifications, follow along with me, whether you agree with me or not. Here's the first video I did. I didn't even get into this video of his for more than a couple of minutes before I had to stop it and record a video before he got to his first myth. And the reason for this is very standard kind of left-leaning economic thought process, which is we're going to lead off with something that is objectively false. And you have to assume that it's the truth. You have to take it as the truth. And now we can move on. So we're going to build this entire castle on, a bed of sand. But so I did that video. Check it out here. In the meantime, here is myth number 1. So come back to this. And where's my guy at? Here we go.
Has shifted. Have you heard this lie? Economics is an objective science that has nothing to do with politics or morality. Bunk.
What a cute little cartoon he does here.
If
Isn't
you
that
really
nice?
want to understand the economy, you have to understand politics and also morality. They're treated as separate fields, separate disciplines. Each has its own experts and specialists, but the three are completely intertwined. In fact,
now, what I want you to listen for in his video here is where he provides evidence that this is a true thing, that economics, politics, or morality are the same thing, or a kind of a unified study.
Most of the 1800s, the field of study that we call economics was called political economy. People who studied it saw that the two fields were the same. Adam Smith, the Scotsman.
It's also possible that in the 1800s, we weren't sophisticated enough to understand economics to the depth that we do today. And so you take a guy like, he's going to use Adam Smith here as an example, but you take a guy like Adam Smith and he goes, oh, Adam Smith, didn't even call himself an economist or whatever. The real field and study of economics probably didn't exist, right? It was a science that just wasn't around. So that's like saying, well, it wasn't called economics then, or, back then it was this. Well, yeah, but I mean, are we going to base our view on how the world works based on what they thought in the 1600s and 1700s and 1800s? Or are we a little bit more sophisticated and we can look at economics and the way the economy functions and go, yeah, this is actually a hard science that we can study and understand. And while there's a lot of theoretics to it, there's also a lot of hard and fast rules that we know for a fact to be true. And they are true regardless of political or moral implications.
Who wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776 is considered the father of economics, especially by conservatives. But he never called himself an economist. He called himself a moral philosopher. Why? Because he was really interested in the meaning of a good society. That's what it's all about, or should be all about. What sort of society do we want?
So what he's doing here is he's talking in the form of oughts, right? This is what we should do. This is what society should look like. This is how we should view things. But that doesn't change the reality that is economics. It doesn't change elasticity of demand. It doesn't change supply and demand. It doesn't change all these different factors that are hard and fast rules in economics. So why would a guy like Robert Reich want to talk like this? Well, I'm going to give you that information here in just a minute.
These are basically moral questions. A society has the ability to make its own rules and determine how much inequality is acceptable, how much poverty. Is slavery acceptable?
And that's great, right? You throw slavery in there, and then you can go, see, here's this horrible, horrible thing that was viewed as economically beneficial, and we decided it wasn't. Obviously, this was a horribly immoral thing that was happening. And so we take something like that where everybody's on the same side of the argument, and we use that to kind of position ourselves as, see, we're the morally correct people. It's an interesting tactic, but it is just a tool.
Is it okay for young children to have to work?
The funny thing about the young children working thing, by the way, I know that a lot of people are upset. It seems like, the Republicans want kids all throughout history until like the middle of the 20th century, kids worked. Kids worked when we were subsistence farmers. Kids worked all the way back to when we were hunter-gatherers. Kids have always worked. It is only modern capitalism, by the way, modern market-based economies that have made it so that we don't need children's labor anymore. Like, if tomorrow society was going to collapse unless we sent kids to work, and we were all going to starve to death unless we sent kids to work, kids would be working right now.
Should there be a minimum wage? Is it okay for an adult who works 40 hours a week or more to earn so little that her family is impoverished? Is it okay for children?
So what's interesting about some of these things is like can you work 40 hours a week and still be impoverished? And is that a moral thing? There's an economic answer for that. There's an economic answer for why that's happening. You can look at the way we've manipulated the currency. You can look at the way that the regulatory environment has limited productivity. You can look at all these things that we've done to try and pull these levers because we want a moral economy. We want a moral society. And so we're going to manipulate the economy and try and bend the rules of economics to suit what we think ought to happen. And a lot of the things that you're seeing that are negatives in our economy are the results of people thinking that we can bend economic reality to our morality. And that's just not the case. So why, again, is he talking like this?
The super wealthy to inherit so much wealth, they never have to work a day in their lives. When we talk about morality, we can't avoid the issue of power. How much power should the wealthy have? Is it okay for a corporation to...
They only have as much power as they could buy from the government. They have no actual power. Amazon, so then he's going to talk about monopolies, right?
Monopolize a market.
Neither of those companies are monopolies. Meta is not the only social media platform. Amazon is not the only retailer. It's insane. They say monopolies or monopolize. They put these companies out there, and it's a manipulation to make you think that there's an actual monopoly in these spaces, and there's not. It's just not true.
Is it okay for workers to join together to form a labor?
Is it okay for workers to join together and form a labor union and then forbid anybody else from coming into work? No.
Union. In the late 19th century, economists began to de-emphasize politics and morals. They started treating economics as more of a science and less of a philosophical study that took into account morality. Alfred Marshall's monumental work, Principles of Economics, established economics as its own science in 1890. But economics, politics, and morality cannot be separated. We need to see the moral underpinnings of economics.
Where did he debunk this? Right? Where did he debunk this? So here's the problem, and you're going to get the government obstructs the free market. That's coming up. So again, subscribe, comment if you think I'm wrong. But here's the problem. He didn't debunk it. He didn't prove that economics is not its own science. This is the problem. This is the issue with the left right now. The political left in this country, and really it's the left and the right, because Donald Trump's a center left moderate Democrat, whatever. That's how he's governing, at least from an economic perspective. But anyway, the reality of the situation is that economics needs to be studied on its own. If you think you can pull all these levers and make things change, the fact that the minimum wage, all these negative outcomes we're seeing in the economy right now are because we've mixed politics and economics together. And then we've decided that here are all these oughts that should happen. This ought to be this way. This ought to be that way. So we're going to use government. We're going to use political power to manipulate the economy to try and create the moral outcome that I want. And all it's done is make things worse. All it's done is devalue our currency. All it's done is concentrate wealth at the top. That is what government intervention, this desire to mix politics, morality, and economics together, that's what it's done. So this idea that they can't be separated is the exact opposite. They absolutely must be separated. And we must let economic systems function freely and on their own and stop trying to manipulate a system that's vastly beyond our control. Thank you for coming along for the ride here. It took me a while to get to the point of this one. I promise you I'll get to it a little bit faster on the next one. Go ahead, subscribe, like, turn on notifications, follow along. We've got 9 more videos in this series coming up.